Welcome back to America Right Now. I'm Tom Basile. In one of the most iconic moments of Inauguration Day, Joe Biden boarded a Marine helicopter on the east front of the U.S. Capitol and lifted off, leaving Washington behind after a half century. He boarded an Air Force jet. He and the former First Lady headed off to the 8,000-acre estate of Democrat mega-donor Joe Kiani. And America's 46th president hasn't been seen since. Where's Joe? Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I'm not missing the angry speeches that demonize more than half the country.
The Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
I'm also not missing moments like this.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
But, or this.
Biden!
Ho, ho, ho! Happy Independence Day!
Ho, ho, ho. Happy Independence Day. But in our digital age, in our social media obsessed society, over the past 2 months, no photos, no video of he and Jill out at dinner in Delaware or California, no video of him cruising around on a nice day in that famous green Corvette of his, no walks on the beach, nothing. Is Joe Biden becoming the new Howard Hughes? This is important. Now, in the days since he left office, we're learning more and more about just how much the Biden presidency was a scam. Now, we knew he was napping during the day. We knew that the White House was evasive about the president's condition or the medications that he was on. We knew that Democrat advocates in the press and congressional leaders covered it all up. Revelations about the White House staff's use of an auto pen to sign documents, including executive orders and pardons, has raised new questions about Biden's involvement in the day-to-day administration of the nation's affairs. Here's Mike Johnson with one example of where staff may have made a unilateral decision concerning our energy policy, or a shocking example of the senility of the commander-in-chief.
Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? He looks at me stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order. Oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know. I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed.
It's frightening. Now, folks say to me, why do you care, Tom? He's gone. Good riddance. But this is important. The effort of any group of people, especially leftist operatives, to turn the American presidency into a puppet show is a direct threat to the safety and the security and the survival of the republic. It plays into the hands of our enemies. Look, we know from the JFK files and other evidence that China and Russia have embedded operatives in our government. The Soviets started doing it in the 1930s. We may never know who was really in charge over those last 4 years. Keep in mind, the methods and the objectives of today's Democratic Party bear more resemblance to communist China and Russia than a mainline political party. We've discussed this before on this program. Cleon Skousen's 45 points exposed back in the 1950s of the communist roadmap for weakening and conquering this nation from within. Among those strategies was to co-opt the media, to take control of one of the major political parties in the United States, the Democratic Party, brand any opposition as racist and fascist and a threat to democracy, and make the Constitution increasingly irrelevant. Biden's disappearance over these last couple of months gives more credence to the notion that the whole presidency was a mirage that was influenced by a range of forces, domestic and perhaps foreign. I've long said that Biden's mental decline and his agenda were controlled and manipulated by forces closely aligned with Obama and socialist Bernie Sanders. But clearly there could have been others as well. Susan Rice, Obama's right-hand woman, was the most prominent and shadowy of figures during the Biden years. Press not only covered up Biden's decline, but ignored her powerful influence on executing the domestic agenda. She was the most powerful person in the White House, who almost never did interviews, almost never saw her. I've long held that Biden's decline was obvious during the 2020 campaign and that Biden and the Biden family were repackaged for a one-term presidency that would provide a bridge to a new generation of left-wing leader. Political strategist turned Washington's serial grifter into lunch pail Joe. We heard about all those stories about commuting on Amtrak, even though a bunch of them were made up. We heard about Joe's upbringing in a half Jewish, half Hispanic, half coal miners town in Pennsylvania somewhere. We heard all about the Joe Biden, who was a great family man, as the press attempted to discredit his son's crimes and his daughter's diary. Recently, Chuck Todd had the courage to reveal the ruse.
Joe Biden never should have been there in the first place, right? Number one, he shouldn't have run for president. Not one, not two, but three Biden children, and I count Bo's widow, were all dealing with drug problems in 2018. And Joe Biden said, now's a perfect time to run for president because who cares about our family? There's this mythology about Joe Biden that the man cared so much, it's all bull.
But the plan all went awry when, in a moment of lucidity, the President of the United States vowed to run for a second term. After pumping him full of drugs to keep up the appearance that he was actually in charge, now he's outlived his usefulness, apparently, and he could just be left to rot. Kind of reminds me of this, when former Chinese President Hu Jintao was led out of the Communist Party meeting. Nobody's seen him either since the operatives led him out of that room. Think about it, folks. If this is how Democrats treat one of their own leaders, what would they be willing to do to you and I?
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.